powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. You just heard Nick Sirianni. You heard Howie Roseman. You're going to hear from Adam Caplan, who is there at the Combine and at the press conferences. And obviously the news today, Adam, was that they hired both coordinators before they spoke. Sean Desai kind of got slipped in there right as they were speaking. Brian Johnson this morning, I guess that's the big takeaway for the news today.
Yeah, no doubt. We were expecting the Sean Desai thing to hit today. In fact, the deal was done about an hour and a half ago, maybe, and something like that. In fact, Desai's agent is here, and Sean is here, actually, who's on my flight, by the way, from Philly. And they're able to get that agreement done. And now what they don't have, though, they still have to get a linebackers coach, Mike. That's one coach they still have to fill. But getting Sean Desai, who was a coordinator with the Bears for 1 year, he knows the defense. In fact, Sirianni in his press conference kind of talked about that knowing that Sean could run some of the things they were running before, that certainly helps. And I think when you look at it going forward here, trying to keep continuity with the defense is a good thing. Because remember now, they're starting this, because they're at the Combine now, their personnel people have to know what kind of players are looking for to fit the scheme and so forth. So this is a good thing to keep somewhat of the continuity.
Yeah, I was going to say, Johnson's been here on the staff, and he'll call plays, as Nick Sirianni said. But, Desai, people who didn't like John Gannon, if you were a listener or a fan and you did not like John Gannon, you're probably not going to be a big fan of this hire.
No, but you got to understand, first of all, the Eagles set records, obviously, with Gannon. We all have taken shots when we thought he could have been more aggressive. But the guy's a good, solid defensive coordinator. He's not elite, no doubt. He's not great, no doubt. But he's a good, solid defensive coordinator. The question is how will Desai run his scheme? The Fangio scheme, we've called this now 2 years, selectively aggressive. How aggressive will he be? Blitz numbers, they typically you don't blitz in the scheme very much. It's a lot of post-snap disguise, and the good thing is the Eagles will still have a really good pass rush. Now, the other thing is, Mike, they've got a lot of free agents on defense, and that's the side of the ball that you would be worried about. I'm not worried about – we'll get to Brian Johnson in a second. I'm not worried at all about their offense. It's their defense with coaching change and a lot of guys who are free agents. You can't bring back – Howie Roseman said it twice today in his press conference. You can't bring everybody back.
No, they can't, and they got a lot of things to check off the list. Tell us a little bit more about Brian Johnson, because Nick Sirianni said there was an emphasis on stability for Jalen Hurts here.
Yeah, and don't forget, Johnson going way back with Jalen Hurts to when Hurts was a kid. They know each other. They know what to expect. He knows how to coach him. He's his quarterback's coach here. They know each other very, very well for 2 years in terms of being coached by. That means a lot, and now he's going to be calling the plays, which he did, by the way, University of Florida. One thing we're looking to do is find people who've looked at Brian Johnson's play calling at University of Florida, and we'll let our listeners know on Inside the Birds what we find out. I'm really interested to see what people thought of him as a play caller, because, look, that's super important, and how aggressive he will be, Mike, as a play caller. Play calling is an art. Not everybody could do it well, but we're going to look into that.
Yeah, obviously that there. And Howie Roseman kind of hinted at, look, there are guys that they're just not going to be able to sign, too. I mean, he mentioned Hargrave, he called out by name when someone asked him, but he said, hey, some of these guys we're not even going to make offers to just because we know we don't want to lowball guys. But do you think they have a priority list?
Yeah, Gardner Johnson certainly is up there. Then after that, and look, what they want, and I've used this Jordan Hicks story before, the Eagles sort of had an idea in mind what they would want to pay him. Once they found out that he wanted $10 million a year, they never made an offer because they knew they couldn't even get close. That's another thing about this. If they don't use a tag on any of these players and they decide to just let it go an extra week and try to get these guys done, that the guys that they want to keep, it's not going to be easy, because once you get here to Indy, right, the agents are starting to gather information. Once we get to free agency, starts on that Monday, the 15th. It doesn't start the 17th. It does in terms of signing contracts, but you get agreements done on that Monday, Mike.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy. I've gone through this now. This we call the legal tampering period. on that Monday, that's when the deals get done, Mike. These agents, they don't wait till Wednesday. They want to get these things done immediately.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that where, hey, it's 4 o'clock on the day free agency opens, and somehow the language of the deal is already worked out, right?
Mike, I'll give you one example. So when the league changed this, and I remember, like, how am I supposed to report this? So what I do is, okay, Mike Gill, unless he changes his mind, is agreed to deal with the Eagles, stuff like that. You just have to change the language and how you're – because he hasn't signed anything, the guy could always back out.
We're talking with Adam Caplan from Inside the Birds, InsideTheBirds.com. He is at the Combine, give me, for you, between Howie and Nick, if there was like a highlight of something, like if you were writing an article of something they said that really – because Nick went on and on. I mean, he really – but did Howie give you something that really perked your ears up?
No, it's. I mean, again, he just emphasized that Jalen Hurts is their guy. They know they have to do a deal, or they want to do a deal. Of course, it takes two to tango. But I thought that was interesting, and he did it again. He didn't seem to be too sad about it. He knows that they can't re-sign everyone. He didn't say this. He said this in his other press conference at the end of the season, and that's when he got a little bit excited about them getting compensatory picks for next year. So it's so interesting because what he didn't say, but we all know there are going to be some high-priced guys from their roster who their contracts are up to, like Hargrave, as you mentioned. Could be James Bradbury, maybe even T.J. Edwards. We'll have to see. Those guys are going to get, if they don't re-sign, they're going to get really good deals, because another underrated part about free agency is, and we talked about this before, look at how many former Eagles assistant coaches and coordinators are either now head coaches or the coordinators somewhere else. I mean, it's amazing, Mike. These guys are going to, because when they want their guys, you know that Sirianni wanted Zach Pascal. You know how these coordinators are, or head coaches are. They want guys that they know. And don't forget about Jim Schwartz in Cleveland. You don't think he'd want a T.J. Edwards or Marcus Epps?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And Jeff and I were talking about that yesterday, that, look, the coordinators that are elsewhere that have connections here, you always connect those dots. And look, one other thing, I guess Denard Wilson, he passed over kind of for the job. What's his future here?
Well, he was a finalist, we're told. And now it's interesting. Sirianni said because he's going to sort of leave it up to decide, and he has to talk to Denard. Because one thing I know, someone in coaching told me, when you're passed over, when you're the guy who's there and someone else comes in and takes the job that you want, which is defense coordinator, you don't know how the guy's going to feel about it. Does he still want to be here? Now, I get it. It's at a late date here, and there aren't a lot of jobs open for being a defensive backs coach, but he's just got to accept it, that he didn't get the job. He was a finalist. He didn't do poorly. Just that the side beat him out. And could he handle it? Can he handle working for the guy who got the job over him? That's not easy.
All right, Adam Caplan. They'll have plenty more on Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, and, of course, Football at 4 tomorrow. Jeff, we heard a bunch of his questions out there. We'll hear his opinions on this
you got
tomorrow.
A bunch of them in.
Yeah. To the point that Howie said, you're asking too many questions. I got to go to somebody else.
Great. And, by the way, they were great questions. He actually, before the Eagles announced the agreement, Jeff asked the question, and then Howie said, well, you wouldn't, because Pete Carroll put it out there. Well, and he said Pete was not lying. So there you go.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to call Pete a liar. All right, Adam, we'll catch up with you later this week, man.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, I know Adam Caplan's got another interview coming up. He was lucky enough that we were able to squeeze him in there just to get a couple quick reactionary thoughts.